Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about more Back 4 Blood, baby. It has been a minute indeed since we made a Back 4 Blood video. The most recent video being about why I think it should have mods. If you guys haven't seen that video, definitely go check that out. But yeah, guys, I wanted to be making more Back 4 Blood content because I've had an itch that I've been wanting to scratch in terms of making content, but there quite hasn't been anything to talk about recently until I came up with this video idea. So what I want to do for this video is I want to talk about 5 game mode ideas that I would love to see be implemented into Back 4 Blood. You could call these just flat out game modes, or you can call these mutations, whatever you would like. But yeah, these are basically Left 4 Dead style types of game modes that I wish that would have actually happened one day, but never did. I mean, who's to say it's not going to happen ever, but I honestly don't expect them to. But you never know, but I do definitely want to see these for Back 4 Blood. So that's what we're going to be talking about here today. If you guys end up enjoying this video at all at any point, definitely please consider dropping a like before you take off. It's always greatly appreciated, and I'll let you be able to tell me that you want to see more videos like this, and I'd be more than happy to do so. But yeah, guys, let's begin with the video. So, back in Left 4 Dead 2, there was really only a select few game modes, other than a couple adaptations, obviously, with the main ones being survival mode, versus mode, and scavenge mode, but we also did have mutations mode, which was several modes listed within a playlist of their own. Now, if you want to look at them as mutations, that's completely fine, even though there is no mutations tab in Back 4 Blood yet. But either way, though, this is basically my Back 4 Blood game modes that I would like to see, that I wish were kind of in Left 4 Dead. So, let's begin. Alright, so the very first game mode that I end up having in mind is a game mode I like to call Speedrun. So with the Left 4 Dead community, we are one of the few games that luckily has the ability to make speedrun records because of the way that just the game is designed. And for me personally, I would love to see the speedrunning community come back into the game because the game's been around for so long, there really is no point to necessarily speedrun anymore. But I would like to see that be implemented back in and see a drive for that again as one of the challenges that we can all do together when we're bored. Or just in general, just for something fun, just because I in general really like speedrunning. But basically, yeah, this game mode, what it would be is that it would be a speedrun type of style mode. And what you would do is that when you would spawn into the game, you would end up having a storm-like element chasing you. This would be something similar to the gameplay mechanics of Battle Royales, whether you look at it from the sense of Fortnite, Apex Legends, whatever you would like to call it. Basically, a outer perimeter that's shrinking on the map as the game goes on, and makes it so that way it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But however, though, in Back 4 Blood's case, what it would be is that it would just be following you from behind, because the way that the map is, you wouldn't actually be able to end up doing that. And so, essentially, imagine when you spawn into the game, and basically what happens is that, slowly but surely, a wall of zombies, yes, that's what I'm doing for this game's version of a storm, a wall of zombies is the storm in this game. And instead of it circling in on you, what happens is that it follows you as a line behind you. So every single time you don't move, the zombies are getting closer and closer to you. So essentially what happens is that eventually is if you can't push forward and get past the current amount of zombies, the wall of zombies, or in case of this, the storm, will end up eating you alive. And that is the goal of speedrun, is that it's incentivizing you to get your ass in gear and moving. So from when you spawn in to when you end up getting to the next checkpoint, you will end up having a horde of zombies following you from behind. But they will not end up running at you. They will walk, and really all it is, that's up to you to end up clearing the way. So if the zombies in front of you are easy to manage for you, great. This game mode is really easy for you. But however, though, Back 4 Blood's not really that easy of a game so far. So if, if push comes to shove and you end up getting into a pinch, you might end up having to sacrifice yourself for the greater good of your team, or you might all die, or you might all live. It really just depends. That's going to be depending on how good you are at the game. And that's why I think that this would be a good idea, is because it's going to show the good players from the bad players, and who's really committed to learning the game and who's not. And I would like to see this be a game mode, because it would also have kind of like a competitive vibe without being quite competitive. It wouldn't be like competitive like how we know gaming. It would be kind of like a competitive thing amongst ourselves. I feel like that personal speedruns amongst ourselves would be completely fine. And I think that that would be very enjoyable. So basically, wall of zombies, kind of Battle Royale style, but it follows you from behind so you can still function on the map properly. But if you don't end up pushing through the front lines, you end up getting killed by the zombies behind you. So that is the very first game mode. Now let's move on to the second one. Alright, so the second one, in my humble opinion, is this good old classic gun game. So with gun game, this is a game mode that's been in pretty much any first-person shooter that you can honestly think of. And I really do like myself some gun game. Basically, for those of you guys that truly do not know what gun game is, basically it's a party mode where you have a set of guns that you have to rotate through until you get to the last gun in order to complete the challenge. So, for example, let's say you start off with pistols, and then you work your way up to the better things, such as shotguns, then SMGs, and assault rifles, and then you might even have some special weapons in there, until eventually you get to the very last gun, and then once you get to the very last gun, if you get a kill with that, you end up winning. So, what we could do is we could have it be like a sandbox-style type of game mode. It could be something like survival size, where it's just like a section of the map. And essentially what happens is that you have to end up getting through as many guns as you can before you die. So I don't necessarily think there would need to be a time limit for this. Maybe there would, maybe there wouldn't be, maybe there would be the lives mechanic, who knows. But basically, long story short, you would start with a pistol, then you would work your way up to the shotguns, then the SMGs, then the assault rifles, and then also the sniper rifles and the LMGs as well, and then maybe some special weapons. Maybe you could throw in a melee weapon for the very last weapon at the end. Maybe you could even do some grenades. But basically, at the end of the day, you either die trying to complete the cycle, or you end up completing the cycle, and then you end up winning. Since there is a decent amount of guns already in this game so far, it wouldn't surprise me by the time that the full game releases that will be plenty more, and then therefore we can make a giant arsenal of guns for this, because as far as I'm aware, there is Hoffman and Walker's pistols, there is a melee weapon for both Holly and Evan Angelo, plus some more. Then we've also got, I believe, 2 shotguns, maybe 3. And then we've also got 3 assault rifles, 1 sniper rifle, 1 LMG, and then 2 SMGs, I think. And then also the equipment like the grenades and stuff like that. That's just a rough estimate. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I think that gun game could be really fun in Back 4 Blood. It's something that never happened in Left 4 Dead, but I don't see why it wouldn't be able to happen, especially since it's a Valve game / Turtle Rock game, and mods and stuff like that would be easy to do for this. So yeah, that is my second game mode. Now we move on to the third one. Alright, so for my third game mode, I like to call this Zombie Tag. So with Zombie Tag, the best way I can relate this to something you may or may not know is it's similar to Turned from Black Ops 2 for Call of Duty, if you guys have ever ended up playing that back in the day. But basically what Turned was a game mode where you would play as survivors, and there would be players that would actually end up becoming zombies, and you would have to end up as a zombie killing the survivor so you could become a survivor again, and they would switch places with you. So by the end of the game, whoever ended up being the survivors last won the game. And that's what I want to implement into this game, because this can be done very easily. So let's say that you end up having, like, let's say a free-for-all style game mode with this, right? Free-for-all, right? You end up having all the 4 survivors. You can have even 8 if there's going to be that many survivors in the game at launch. But 4 or 8 survivors, anywhere in between. And basically, at random, someone's going to be selected and end up being a infected. Now, this infected can run really fast. This infected has the ability to end up doing a little bit of lunge at you, and they can end up infecting you. If they end up killing you, or they basically end up getting you, then you switch, and then therefore they're a survivor, and now you're infected. The last one standing as the survivor basically ends up winning the game. Now, you may be wondering yourself, being like, okay, that would be easy if it was a 1v1 sake, but how would we do this with multiple people? Well, it would be basically going off of time length. So, for example, like, let's say that there was 4 people, and, like, let's say that Walker survived the longest without getting infected. He went 1 minute straight as a survivor when everyone else only went, like, 30, 20, and 10 seconds. So, Walker would end up being the winner because he survived the longest as a survivor rather than infected. And you can do different style versions of this. You could end up doing it where maybe that's a special infected that's trying to reinfect you, such as like a Hawker, or you can end up having it where it's actually a Wretch, and they have their ranged attacks, and if they hit you with the ranged attacks, that could also happen. But I feel like melee combat would honestly be better for the special infected, or just the zombies in general, while we also do indeed have guns. But for the survivors, we wouldn't give them anything overpowered. There'd be like no automatics. It probably would just be the simple pistols. So Holly, Walker, Hoffman, and Evan Angelo would probably all just end up having sidearms, because sidearms are strong in this game, but they're not too overpowered, and you do have to reload on quite a regular basis. And so it would encourage you to be sort of team-based without being team-based. You're like the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of logic. Like, you don't want to get infected, but you need to work with people to try to all survive in general, and just kind of hope that everyone else dies besides you. So that is the idea behind that game mode. Now let's move on to my next one that I think you guys are also going to like. Alright, so for my next game mode, this is going to end up being Challenge Roulette. I really like the idea of this one. This is probably one of my personal favorites. So what is Challenge Roulette, you might be thinking? Well, basically what Challenge Roulette is that it's literally what it sounds like. I mean, I can't even make this up. It's literally a challenge roulette. You end up having a RNG challenge system in the game implemented for you while you're completing a campaign. This would be more like mutation style, but like, hear me out. So basically what this would end up being is that you're going through the campaign like normal, but every single time that you end up playing, you're going to have challenges that pop up. So for example, when you start into the game, as soon as you end up starting the game by relieving the safe room and you're starting to kill zombies, you have a challenge that you gotta complete. And then every single time you complete that challenge, you get a new challenge, and this goes on and on and on until the end of the game. But the trick is that if you fail to complete the challenge, you end up having to start all over again. You can end up doing this with the live system, you can end up doing this with the attempts system, you can end up having to do this so many different ways, but basically the premise is that either or you're going to start over. So what you would do is you would end up having where you spawn in and you and your team all either have to complete the same challenge or you all have your own individual challenges. I'd like to believe you could maybe have two versions of this exact same game mode, so I'm not necessarily setting it in stone. Let me know which one you prefer, actually, whether it be everyone does the same challenge or everyone has their own individual challenge and everyone just dies or gets reset on their own. But essentially what would happen is that, like, let's say at the very beginning of the game, it's like get 30 kills before 2 minutes is up. And then you have to get 30 kills before 2 minutes is up, otherwise you end up losing. You complete that challenge, and then your next challenge is, like, let's say, go 30 seconds without moving. And then you have to go 30 seconds without moving, otherwise you end up failing. And the last one can end up being, like, get 10 melee kills in 3 minutes. And you have to get melee kills within 3 minutes, but if you don't have a melee weapon, you'll have to adapt and you have to improvise. So it forces you to think on your feet and makes you have to be a lot more reactive and also know your environment. Plus, it also has an RNG element in it, which makes it a lot more fun in my opinion. So that would end up being that game mode, and now let's move on to my last one. So for my last game mode that I think this would be kind of fun, it wouldn't necessarily be the most serious mode of everything, but it would just be a nice goofy mode. But this would be called Freeze Tag. So Freeze Tag would be 4 Hawkers versus 4 Survivors. And essentially what you would be doing is that as the Hawkers, you have no other abilities other than your spit. And basically what you would do is that with your spit, you end up trying to incapacitate these survivors to make them stuck. And you have to try to, as a team, get all 4 of the survivors stuck at the same time, and then the Hawkers win. If the survivors manage to survive without all 4 of them being hacked at the same time, they win. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, being like, oh, you could just melee them once and this would be extremely easy, especially if there's no, other attacks other than spit. Basically, though, the way around that is make it so that way when you're ending up trying to free somebody from the Hawker stuff, it's a lot longer, such as, for example, when the survivors, when you're bringing them back from the guts on the wall, like when you bring them back from the dead, kind of like the closet system in this game, it would be like that amount of time, roughly about like a couple seconds rather than just instantly. So you would have something such as, 4 Hawkers with only their spit with a slightly faster cooldown, or just like a decently fast cooldown, so that way they can do it pretty regularly, but not as enough where it's spammy, because there will be 4 of them, like I said. But essentially, yeah, that's literally all you would do, is that you would try to coordinate with your teammates to see who is the best team. You as the Hawkers would try to spit accordingly, so that way everyone ends up having to end up working on their end to try to keep their teammates alive. As the survivors, your job is to make sure that you are not getting flanked by Hawkers, where while you're trying to free your teammates, you might end up getting incapped yourself and forfeiting it basically for your team. So everyone's got to be on their feet and pay attention, so that way no one ends up getting the upper hand. But yeah, guys, basically, long story short, that is all my game modes. I think that these are some fun game modes, and they definitely could use some work. But these are my rough drafts, and I would like to definitely see Back 4 Blood end up having these, and even Turtle Rock's information on this, just because maybe, who knows, maybe they would end up liking these game modes, and I think that they would end up wanting to give them a try. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comment sections down below what you guys think of these game modes that I have in mind. What are some modifications you would make, or would you just leave them just the same? And if you have any of your own game modes down below, feel free to let me know. I would love to hear them. But anyways, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. I truly hope you guys ended up enjoying. If you did, and you do want to see more Back 4 Blood / Left 4 Dead, let me know by dropping a like, comment, and subscribe to show your support to the channel. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed another YouTube video for the most unique YouTuber you guys are ever going to see. Peace out.